The Last Black Man in San Francisco is the directorial debut of Joe Talbot, who could certainly pass as a director of many decades more experience. This is the story of Jimmy Fails, a young black man played by an actor with the same name, for this is a movie rooted in a certain emotional truth. Jimmy begins this film by squatting in what used to be his childhood home, now unoccupied. It's become the symbol of his family's former pride, but it also represents the city's decay into gentrification. From the beginning, The Last Black Man in San Francisco sets itself apart from most movies this year with its stellar sense of cinematography. Every shot in this movie has lovely composition, each image suggesting a certain relationship between humans and the cities they inhabit. Many moments of this film act as motion paintings, capturing people in their everyday environments. The opening is evocative, following a young girl as she walks down a city street, otherwise swarming with men in hazmat suits. This is an image that paints a neighborhood that is unsafe for the people who live there, or at least viewed as such by outsiders. We soon follow Jimmy and his friend Montgomery as they share a skateboard as they go down the city's slopes. It's this type of image that paints them as very close, in a way that no words could capture, at least not within the first 5 minutes of a film. And this is a movie that really loves finding beauty in everyday life. It constantly stops to study the people they pass by, and when we finally get to the house, there's all these shots of just these empty rooms, but it's so beautiful. As the girl walks down that hazmat-riddled road, a nearby street preacher derides the city for not taking action sooner. His words are repeated throughout, this film happy to operate as a poem, using key phrases as its refrain. The most important line comes later, "You can't hate it unless you love it," which so succinctly summarizes Jimmy's relationship with the city, with his own life, and with all of the people in it. The beauty of this language and imagery is equally matched by Talbot's sense of sound. Conversations and city noises are frequently reduced to silence, instead replaced by music. The opening score is both minimal and bombastic, suggesting Philip Glass in the way it captures a city in decay. This muting creates a distance, again lending to this idea that this is more of a poetic than narrative story. And that adds to the sense that this is a story representative of something that goes way beyond its characters. The film likewise makes great use of more familiar songs, such as a cover of Scott McKenzie's San Francisco, or an unexpected yet effective use of Joni Mitchell's Blue over a shot of the rowdy young men that spend most of this film mocking the main characters. Again, this use of music suggests a certain sadness that isn't immediately apparent in the images being captured. This is a film riding on a sense of aimlessness. All of these elements are in service of a largely symbolic narrative, a story as much about gentrification as it is about defining one's own selfhood. Jimmy defines himself with this old house, desperate to reclaim what his grandfather once built. He ties himself to the city that is largely rejecting people like him. There are certain moments where it feels like this movie is laying its concepts on too thick, but again, it's largely successful in painting a picture beyond its own scope. The relationship between Jimmy and Montgomery carries us through most of this film, their bond one of surprising beauty and depth. This is the type of closeness that only forms from unabashed platonic love, and the two actors sell this fully. It's as if both men would be lost without the other's support, their bond allowing one to speak the hard truths that the other would rather deny. Montgomery is key in letting Jimmy actually find himself. The Last Black Man in San Francisco is film as poetry, a work that places its imagery and statements above all else. Despite this, it approaches every element with a fantastic eye for detail, a rare film where every frame could pass as a painting due to its choice of lighting and positioning of figures. This is a work of pure aesthetic beauty, with a meaningful heart, bubbling with love for a city that never quite seems to love back as much as its people deserve.